That's right, we're talking about your dad's favorite movie, assuming that your dad's cool. You know, it's just like that famous tweet, which was really just a take on an older joke, said, all of the things we idolized and were inspired by as boys were absolutely the correct things to love. Because what are they at their core? Physical strength and fitness, perseverance, living by one's own code and values, attaining success by one's own merit, quality time with the boys, fine-ass warrior women. All of that shit is totally awesome and will never stop being awesome. And if the mundane degradations of modern life have caused you to lose sight of these things, I highly recommend you revisit Conan the Barbarian. Released in 1982, Conan is a low-fantasy action-adventure film based on the work of Robert E. Howard. It stars Arnie as the title character, and we follow him from his childhood village in Samaria to life as an orphan slave, to life as an orphan slave gladiator, to life as a thief on the trail of the evil snake wizard that slaughtered his people. It has one of the best fantasy soundtracks ever recorded, some pretty sweet practical effects, nice cinematography, and a load of great action. It is more than enjoyable as just a fun, mindless story of good overcoming evil, which is why the criticism that the film takes itself too seriously sticks out to me as particularly goofy. I suppose we can chalk that up to it not being artsy enough to have good characters in the eyes of the fucking pseudos, and just move on. I love how one of the first things that the film establishes about adult Conan is that he's far from infallible despite his physical prowess and cunning. He's prideful, gluttonous, impulsive, lustful, and somewhat selfish whenever he hasn't been specifically prompted to be heroic. Novel and comic iterations of Conan have shown the character landing in seriously hot water due to one or more of these attributes on many occasions. So even though not all of these have any real bearing on the story here, I like that they're true to his character. And that's important because Conan was always meant to be a physical representation of the base instincts of man, for better and for worse. The creator of the character felt that civilized life made people behave shittier in many respects, and he voiced this belief through his most famous character. Sure, you can't really get away with acting like a bandit in a civilized place, but you can get away with being a coward who treats people poorly. In comes Conan, who, simply put, does things his own way, in spite of the risks that come with living outside of any societal protection. He has the physical and mental ability to do almost anything he wants, which is where those negative qualities shine through, but he chooses to live somewhat honorably, and anytime he's bothering good people, it's just for the sake of a little rambunctious fun. You see what I'm talking about with the power fantasy angle, right? Basically, none of us are like Conan. We are the meek people enduring civilization that he feels pity for, while they collectively scoff at or shift away in fear from him. But there's a piece of every man, regardless of whether they'll admit it, that wishes they were like Conan. This piece is bigger in some of us than others, and it's probably a little too big in some, but it's in all of us. I can't really speak for women, maybe they all secretly want to be Red Sonja or something, I'm not sure. If somehow a woman is watching this, feel free to let me know. So anyway, after enduring slavehood and becoming the finest gladiator and woman pleaser in the land, Conan is set free and meets the jewel thief Subutai, and decides that the two would make a great team. And this just continues the trend of this fucking guy being amazing at everything he tries. I mean, look at him. This guy is going to sneak into guarded areas and steal jewels. The fucker stomps everywhere he goes. He's incredibly top-heavy. This is clearly not the profession for him. But of course, this is a power fantasy character, so he's also the finest jewel thief in the land as soon as he tries it. In one of the earliest scenes with Conan and Subutai, where they discuss the differences between their two respective gods, is where the fuller image of Conan's worldview starts to form. Conan's god Crom has been mentioned multiple times before this point, when he talks with his father as a child, when he finds his ancient sword, but this is where the relationship between the two becomes clear. If Conan is the embodiment of man's prideful impulses, then Crom could almost be seen as the very force which imbues man with them. Crom values strength and autonomy above all else. People living within the cities have very little use for a god of this sort, so worship of him is no longer widespread. Prayers to him generally fall upon deaf ears because he views traditional prayers as a form of weakness. When Conan does voice something of a prayer to Crom towards the end of the movie, he basically says, It doesn't even matter why I'm doing it. I'm going to kill an army or die trying, and you can help me or fuck off. And it actually works. At least it's strongly implied that Crom had his back, but I'm getting ahead of myself. During their adventures and their search for the snake wizard, Conan and Subutai learn that worship of the snake god Set has been growing more prevalent within the cities, and they decide to rob one of that little bitch's temples. En route, they meet the warrior thief Valeria, and you already know Conan needs some of that, so the team becomes a trio and they successfully steal a precious jewel from Set's temple, killing a giant snake and making the obvious realization that these cultists are related to the snake wizard in the process. One quick falling in love and general tomfoolery montage later, Conan sets out on a new lead to find the snake wizard and rescue a princess, leaving his team behind for their own safety. He makes friends with a friendly wizard, who we learn is the narrator of this story, and that'll be relevant in just a short while. From there, Conan comes up with this brilliant plan to disguise himself as one of the snake wizard's priests and infiltrate his fortress, but he completely overestimates his sneak stat and is immediately found out and severely beaten. At the mercy of the snake wizard, whose name is Thulsa Doom, by the way, I don't think I've actually said that yet. His name is Doom, he's played by James Earl Jones in a fantastic performance. Anyway, Conan comes to find out that Doom also worshipped Crom at one time, and as part of his climactic villain monologue, he reveals his personal answer to Crom's riddle of steel, which can essentially be translated as, what is the nature of strength? And it's a question that Conan also seeks the true answer to, as Crom will judge his answer in the afterlife. Doom claims that the nature of strength is control over others, and he demonstrates his control by ordering a young follower of his to jump to her death, while Conan looks on in disgust. Doom then drops the coldest lines in Snake Wizard history. I'll let them speak for themselves. And then, he crucifies our boy. And in case you were initially on the Crom worship hype train, this meeting of his two brightest students probably helps to shine some light on the flaws with living purely in pursuit of strength. It can turn you into Andrew fucking Ryan just as quickly as it can make you a cool hero. Conan nearly dies there upon the Tree of Woe before he's rescued by his team and brought back to the friendly wizard, who believes he can beckon the gods for help to save Conan's life, but warns that the gods will extract a heavy toll on the group for this service. Valeria agrees to this toll without a second thought, and Conan is returned to full health. Now filled with an even greater rage, the trio sets out to do what Conan alone could not and rescue the princess. They infiltrate Doom's lair and discover a cannibalistic orgy taking place, in case you might have thought that any snake worshippers were chill people, and they promptly fuck it up real bad, kidnapping the princess while Doom goes snake mode and slithers into hiding. Unfortunately, when the gang is riding into the sunset, Doom uses a fucking snake as an arrow, I love this movie so much, and beams Valeria right through the kidney, killing her, but with her last breaths, she claims that her death is the toll required for Conan's life, so she's cool with it. In a proper warrior's funeral, Conan and Subutai burn Valeria on a pyre, intentionally giving away their location to the remainder of Doom's army, then begin laying traps. This is where Conan addresses Crom directly, like we mentioned earlier, and what follows is the complete destruction of Doom's forces in absolutely beautiful fashion. Conan is almost bested by the lead general, or whatever you'd call this fucking dork, at the end, but Valeria returns as a Valkyrie to lend a quick hand before returning to Valhalla. Knowing that he's got this shit pretty much in the bag now, Conan trails Doom back to his temple that night and confronts him in front of his congregation. Doom tries to manipulate and exert his magical control over Conan, but our boy isn't having it and decapitates him in pretty goddamn brutal fashion, chucking his head down some stairs for good measure. With Doom dead, his followers realize they've been under a spell this entire time, and they promptly toss down their torches and leave, after which Conan burns down the temple and rides away. A text scroll tells us that Conan returned the princess to her home and continued roaming the lands, winning battles and making friends, before one day becoming king by his own hand. And that is the story of Conan the Barbarian. We never get a definitive answer to the riddle of steel that Conan and Doom were at one point so fixated on, but I think we get some pretty good nudges in the right direction. Strength was not found in fighting alone, as Conan had done for many years, for example, exemplified by the fact that he got beaten and crucified as soon as he tried that shit against a tough enemy. And the answer isn't in the domination of others either, as exemplified by the fact that Doom got fucked up real bad trying to control an angry barbarian. But I think it's important that I let you all decide the exact answer for yourselves. Now, to circle back to the central claim of the video, this film, despite minor issues like its odd editing, is nothing short of, and this is going to sound dramatic, a spiritual win for the human race. And there's a lot more that can be said about Conan and the entire sort of philosopher-barbarian archetype that Robert Howard popularized that I'm going to dive into here. You know, commentary about the evils of complacency and societal rot, something about masculine idealism, how Subutai is the greatest bro in cinema history. These are topics more than deserving of their own longer videos, but I'll let someone smarter than myself cover them. And while the point that every man wants to be a little bit like Conan only covers half of all people, and might not even be true, I don't know, I know that nobody wants to feel helpless the way that most of the characters in this film, including powerful kings, do. We don't want to sit in quiet fear as filthy fucking snake cultists take over our cities, to use one highly dramatic example. And Conan embodies the idea that despite our many flaws, if we can brave adversity, we don't have to cower and accept decay. It's pretty far from being unique in its generally positive outlook and celebration of individuality, but it is surprisingly potent in its presentation, and beyond all of that mumbo-jumbo, it's just a relentlessly fun flick about a muscly guy killing evil and betting broads, and 12-year-old you was absolutely right to love it. I'll talk to you guys later.